please. By area, which of these stands is the world's largest landlocked country? Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, or Kazakhstan? Robert, do you know this one?
I'm 99% sure.
Okay, what did you lock in with?
I chose Kazakhstan.
Okay, tell me why.
I definitely remember seeing that Kazakhstan is the largest landlocked country, and when you look at a map, I think it's pretty obvious too.
All right, is the world's largest landlocked country Kazakhstan?
I think it's now the world's 8th largest country, so my answer is Kazakhstan.
Next question. In the movie Caddyshack, Bill Murray's character memorably recounts a time when he caddied for whom? Fidel Castro, Rasputin, or the Dalai Lama? Robert chose the Dalai Lama.
Fidel Castro doesn't really roll off the tongue, and well, Rasputin, he was long dead, so I mean, that's ridiculous. But he is a ridiculous character, so I don't know.
Okay, did Bill Murray's character caddy for the Dalai Lama? $25,000 is one step closer to the bank. Feast.
I've seen this movie, but I can't recall this scene at all.
Oh,
Really?
So my answer is Fidel Castro.
And stays where he is on the board. Next question. The wondrous properties of Viagra were actually a side effect of a drug designed to combat what? Vertigo, angina, or insomnia? Robert goes with angina. Was Viagra originally designed to combat angina? Yes, it was. $25,000 is one step down on the board. Steve went with angina.
There's actually a sort of local Welsh pride here because Morriston Hospital in Swansea was the first place in the world where they did trials. And they reported the side effects when they were giving it to angina patients, where a lot of the men there were saying, life's a little bit better now.
Steve moves one step down on the board, one step away from the bank. Let's do it with this next question. Pink Floyd has denied that their album Dark Side of the Moon is purposely synchronized to plot points in what movie? A Clockwork Orange, The Wizard of Oz, or Easy Rider? Robert?
well, I answered The Wizard of Oz.
To put the $25,000 in the bank is the correct answer, The Wizard of Oz. This is a lot on your plate.
I've never had a team get every question right before. Although they're on 105,000, they could have been on $355,000. I'm expecting a big score to chase in the final.
This is going to be a battle to the finish. Thomas, Marty, and Robert have banked $105,000. Now it's all or nothing in the final chase right after this.
Teams been unbeatable so far.
The final chase is on.
Will their second chance pay off?
Selfie.
Poppy humorous.
One thing is guaranteed: the best
Look at this.
final
Climax.
chase
Like Cadillac Damascus.
ever.
Oh, dude.
Next.
Daily draws back. It's your chance to win cash from home. Go to GameShowNetwork.com to register to play. I'm announcing cash winners every weekday during Get It Clear. Watch, play, and can really pay. Only on Game Show Network.
Your migraine strikes, and the struggle is real. Take something that can wipe you out, or don't, and fight through every second. New Quick Dissolve Nurtec can bring you back when migraines attack. Just one dose can work fast and last, so you can keep going. Don't take it for granted.
I think everyone should respond to the 2020 census. Now that so many jobs require I take my job on YouTube here pretty seriously, and my job is to teach you guys how to clean like a pro. And you might not know this, but I have a cleaning company. I started it in 2006, and over the years, I've researched, studied, practiced. I've learned a lot from other people, and of course, I've trained hundreds of people and taught them how to clean too. So here on YouTube, I always love sharing with you guys those little pro tips and secrets that have helped me build a company and of course, clean. No idea how to clean before. Your life. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. For someone who's been in the cleaning game for a little while, I've had my share of
Satisfaction.
Correct. What modern photography term was Oxford Dictionary's 2013 Word of the Year? Selfie. Correct. The famous World War I poem in Flanders Fields prominently features what flower?
Poppy.
Correct. What much revived Broadway musical is based on the play I Am a Camera? Cabaret. Correct. In 1961, what country launched the first man into space?
Russia.
Correct. Mainly used for flavoring soft drinks, what African nut is chewed for its caffeine?
Cola.
Correct. Lake Winnipeg is located in what Canadian province?
Ontario.
Manitoba. In the human body, what's the longest bone above the waist?
Humerus.
Correct. The Greek zodiac contains how many total astrological signs?
12.
Correct. Around the World in 80 Days is an 1873 book by what author?
Verne.
Wrong person answer. It was Verne. What custard-like dessert's name translates to cooked cream in Italian? Anaconda, correct. By weight, what metal is the lightest of the solid elements?
Lithium.
Correct. In the Karate Kid remake, the title role was played by the son of what actor?
Will Smith.
Correct. What Moscow amusement complex is named for a Russian novelist? Orsky? Gorky Park. What salt shaker shaped aliens have appeared on Doctor Who since 1963?
Daleks.
Correct. What burrowing mammal did the Aztecs call the turtle rabbit?
Armadillo.
Correct. What instrument is the lowest pitched of the brass family?
Trombone.
Tuba. Actor John Cazale portrayed which of Vito Corleone's sons in The Godfather?
Fredo.
Correct. NH3 is the chemical formula for what gas?
Ammonia.
Correct. From an old French word meaning to float, debris from a shipwreck is called what?
Flotsam.
Correct. At the 1945 Yalta Conference, FDR and Churchill met with what other world leader? Stalin. Correct. What landlocked African nation is bordered by Mozambique on the east, south, and west? Botswana? Malawi. What comedian played President? BC is be going home with $105,000. BC, prediction.
You've given me a chance. I normally get through about 25 questions in a final chase. So I've either got to be very, very accurate or I've got to take liberties.
The Beast versus the 20-step lead when we come back.
In this game, a lot of knowledge and a little bit of attitude can go a long way.
They look like incredibly intelligent, capable women, but also I'm me.
Masterminds. All new next. Only on Game Show Network.
힘든 술이었습니다.
First seasoning.
Table 7.
You either love it or you really love it.
Irritating.
I don't have to worry about that.
Do I?
Harmful bacteria lurk just below the gum line. Crest Gum Detoxify, voted product of the year. It
Hi guys who are here, welcome. We're gonna wait about 5 more minutes and let everybody else get on. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Lisa.
Yep.
Kunis. Mila Kunis?
Well, it is Mila Kunis, 100% sure.
Mila Kunis, we say. Mila Kunis is your
Hi, Evie. That was supposed to be a heart, Evie, in the chat box.
Hi, Lisa.
Hey, how are you?
This is Patricia Melton.
Hi, Patricia. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me in the class.
Absolutely.
Don't you think we can dig deep within ourselves and achieve the success for which we're destined by the state? Being patient and we're destined to live.
We're just gonna wait a few more minutes. We had a lot of people RSVP to this one, like about 150 people. So we'll see. I'll let some more people, maybe we'll start at like a couple minutes after 1. We have a lot of good content though today, again. So we have a great guest today. I'm sure we'll be taking up the whole time, most likely. Hey, Steve.
There was never enough power, money, attention, and enough control. What did you think of what is the fix?
Lisa?
Yes, Anne.
I went on to take a look at the second one that I missed, the shift. Is there a 15-minute thing or something like that that goes before that? There seemed to be a lot of introductions and stuff like that. Or is there something wrong with me?
Sorry, so you watched the shift 2, and what was the question?
No, I tried to watch it, and there was a commercial, then there was this long cleaning stuff, and I pushed it to the end, and then it just went back to the cleaning stuff. So did I do something wrong?
That's odd. I don't know. That's a really good question. I don't know. I think Cheryl's on. Maybe she can check on that. I didn't watch the recording, but we did send it out, and it looked like I actually clicked on it when I got the email to see if it was working. It looked like it was working okay, but I don't know.
I didn't hear the question. Sorry, I just got on.
That's okay. It was Anne regarding watching the Shift Tactic 2 that went out. She said that she wasn't able to find the actual class, that it was like went to a commercial and it connected it to something else. So we'll check that out. Is there anyone on that did watch Tactic 2 on the video that went out that was successful at watching that? Because I don't know, Anne, it could have been a computer thing, or we'll find out. I'll find out. But it looked okay when I started it. I just didn't watch the whole thing, just the beginning.
That's the one that says click below here. It has your picture.
Yes, that one.
Okay.
It could have been an issue with the link. So we'll look into that.
All right.
Thank you for bringing that up. Cheryl, just make a note, please.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, one more minute. And then we'll get started. I'll start with actually like a little Zoom tutorial for those of you who haven't been doing a lot of Zoom calls, just a reminder in terms of interaction. So everybody is muted coming in, should be muted coming in. That was just a setting that I put on so that we can minimize background noise. However, if you want to unmute to speak, which I would encourage you to do, this is participatory, in the lower left, you can unmute two different ways. One is to hit your space bar to mute, unmute, and then mute. The other is in the lower left-hand corner of your Zoom screen, you will see a microphone and you can mute and unmute that way. So that's muting. You can start and stop your video. I love to see you guys if possible. However, if not, that's okay too. And you can decide to start or stop your video, which is next to that. The other thing is there's a chat box, which I encourage you to use, which you'll see already. Some people have been using this today. So there's a chat icon. You can click on that. That'll take you to the chat box. You can ask questions that way. You can make comments that way. If you don't want to use your mic, I will be going back and forth from the PowerPoint to check the chat box periodically, but it's not up 100% of the time on my end. I will check it periodically though. And then you also should have a reactions. There's this cute little reactions button next to that where you can do like a clap or a thumbs up, like there's my thumbs up. Woo! Keone just did one if you want, or clap if it's something you're super excited about. So these are ways that you can interact. And I think, what else can I tell them? Is that about it? I guess that's it. Okay, so Shirley's asking, can I watch the previous shift classes and how do I access them? So yeah, Shirley, we did send out an email to all board members that was letting you know about this class. And then if you scroll down, there is a Tactic 1 and Tactic 2 in there that you can watch the recording of. However, we did just hear that there might be an issue with Tactic 2, so we may have to resend that out, but they are recorded. This one's being recorded as well. And then what we're doing is just sending out the prior links as we promote the next week. So you know what's going on and you can catch up. I would highly recommend that you watch last week's. They were both great. The first one's great too. I think last week's really was a way for people to cut down their expenses and have an impact immediately in their bottom line. So why don't we start with that? And I'd love to hear I did get some emails, not as many as I would have liked, of people following up and letting me know what they cut in expenses. I can tell you that one person a couple people sent an email. Carla had cut, so some people on the call had cut expenses, which was great. Carla cut $185. Lisa, who was on the call last week, saved and cut $1,380. This is out of monthly expenses, you guys. And then Lee saved, so annually $22.62 she cut. So that is about $188 a month. So, those things add up, you guys. So what I'd love to hear from you that were on the call last week, did you do the homework, right? Did you go back and really list out your personal expenses and your business expenses? And if so, what did you discover and how much money were you able to cut from those expenses? So please, I'd love to hear from a couple of you that were on the call last week before we get into today.
I'd like to say something.
Yes, Karen.
As I promised you I would go through my credit card statements, and I did. And it was sort of like, why am I paying for this ad in this one print magazine that's not really real estate related? So I cut that one out. That's like $300 a month.
Awesome.
And there were others where I just trimmed back on things. So all told, probably came to about $800 a month.
Fantastic. That's
Pretty
great.
cool.
How do you feel about that?
Excellent.
Good. Pretty good, right? Wonderful. Thank you for sharing,
definitely.
Karen. Who else has a success story to share? Give me one more before we start.
Okay, I'll go.
Okay. Hi, Jordan.
Hi. Okay, so I started a couple weeks ago, but through business and personal, and then also flipping, building houses, all those different avenues, I pulled about $1,200 a month out of monthly expenses.
Wow. Fantastic. I love that. Great, you guys. Wonderful. Lisa said she went through her personal and business expenses, saved about $300 a month. Oh, and then Dylan posted a link to the YouTube video for Shift 1 and Shift 2. Thank you, Dylan. That's in the chat box. So those of you who are asking questions about that, you can actually just go direct to the YouTube link. Thanks for sharing. Okay, so let's get started with today. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back like I normally do, and I'm gonna share my screen with you, and then I'm just gonna minimize this stuff, the chat box, so you can see the PowerPoint. And we'll do that how we normally do. Let me get the PowerPoint up. Okay, so let me know, making sure you guys can see that okay. You should be able to see the PowerPoint. Everybody can see that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I would like to introduce a guest that we have today, and I know some of you have joined because you're excited about hearing from this guest. Some of you may not know this guest, especially if you're not on Maui. Todd Hudson, who's a rainmaker or the lead agent for the 808 team here on Maui, is with us. And I asked him to join us as a guest today because he has, and I mean, he can share a little bit more if he wants, but I can tell you what I've watched in his business growth and development, and especially pertaining to people leverage. And then next week, we're gonna get the benefit of learning from him. He's actually gonna teach the lead gen class next week because he's a rock star and his team is really good at that. But this is a guy that went from just a few years ago, he was doing about 10 to 12 million a year as an individual agent, developed a team, and went from, about 10 to 12 million to 33 million. And then went from last year from 33 million to 63 million in sales volume. So in just a matter of, 3 years or so, from a 10 to 12 million dollar producer to a team doing 63 million. So that was fast. It was fast growth. I think that he has a lot of really great things to share with us regarding, his failing forward, his successes, his failures, so we can learn from that. And then I just would like to, I'm going to ask him his perspective on some of the things that we're going to go through today and what we're going to do today, so you guys can get a really good live example of somebody in action who's doing, who's really grown their business at a high level and very quickly. Todd, is there anything else you want to say? I'd love for you to introduce yourself and just say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody. Looks like I know a lot of the people. Hi, Karen. Nice to see ya. Some people that aren't in the company, it's also nice to see. It's
hi, Todd.
Rockets. How are ya? It's
not good. You're a rock star. I told you that personally. You're awesome.
Thank you. I really was lucky to learn from a lot of other people. Took a lot of classes, really decided I was going to change the way I did business. And pretty much leveraging myself was the biggest thing I did, because most people that know me absolutely know I really, really hate paperwork with a passion. And it kept clogging my system up all the time. And getting rid of that was probably the number one thing for me to personally grow as an agent and build a successful team.
Awesome.
So yeah, I'm here to help as much as possible. And if anybody has questions, I'm happy to. I'm pretty much an open book most of the time, and especially anybody who's talked with me knows that. So feel free to ask. I'll tell you everything but the secret sauce, and I'll give you clues to the secret sauce.
You give some secret sauce too, though.
Todd, quick
question,
Todd. You said that you got rid of paperwork. Did you mean literal paperwork, or like you told me that you got Daniel to be your?
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, and then we'll get into that.
I would say I do less than 95% of the paperwork that I used to do as an agent.
Awesome. Good for you.
So yeah, we will get into, as we go through this, we'll kind of get a little bit more specific about what he's been doing. So those questions, a lot of those questions will probably be answered, although yeah, we want to ask questions. I want you guys to interact, and we will cover a lot of that stuff. And then at the end, perhaps we can have an additional opportunity for Q&A. So let's get started, and you guys should have received your handout. So what I did is I took some of the materials for this training class and condensed the handout just like I've done in the past for the first session. Last session, you got the entire handout. So you should all have that. And if not, then what we'll do is the same thing we've done before, which is put it in the chat box, which I'm looking for right now to see if I can pull that up. Cheryl, do we have that posted in the chat box?
It's being posted now.
I just, okay, so we're gonna,
and it has been sent. It was called by email. It was called handout. Real hard to miss to everybody.
So if you don't have it, just put your email in the chat box, and Cheryl will be monitoring that. And
Latasha just posted that.
Okay, so Latasha posted it, so if everybody's on the call, you should be able to see that. You can download that. That's what we're going off of when we do exercises today. Okay, so just a reminder. So talking about people leverage today and working with the right people in the right ways. So the main ideas that we're going to cover today are perspective on effective people leverage. We're going to talk about the talent, acquiring the talent that you need, take stock of what you've got, focus on doing the right things, the bottom line, and an action plan. And one of the things that may seem a little counterintuitive to you, and we'll talk about it periodically, but I just want to put this out up front, is last week we spent all of our time focusing on cutting expenses, right? What do we need to do to really minimize our expenses and make sure we're maximizing our income? And you may think that having people that you're paying to do certain things could be counterintuitive to that. And in some cases, I'm going to say that is totally true. And in some cases, that is not true, where we're looking at investing money for a return. So we still have a budget. We're still managing and monitoring a budget. It's going to be a budget of less. However, we still want to be really purposeful about how we're spending that money. And some of the things we're going to talk about today are how do you have effective leverage where it doesn't cost you money. Okay, so there's other options where you can take advantage of relationships that you have and it's not going to cost you any money. So let's talk about perspective on people leverage first and the power of leverage. So what is leverage exactly? And what are we talking about when we say leverage in your real estate business? Well, usually it's going to be categorized in one of three things, one of three forms of leverage. Number one is the people. So the who is going to do what I need them to do and that I'm leveraging. Two is systems. How will they do it? Okay, what is the how around my business? And the tools, specifically, what are they going to use? So the systems that we've created and the tools. And usually when you reach a point in your business where you're hitting a ceiling and you haven't been able to go beyond that, one of two things is missing. It's usually going to be a who, a person, or it's going to be a system that you have not implemented and put in place, which can involve tools, okay? High achievers know that all three forms of leverage, people, systems, and tools, must be used in concert together. But that people are the most powerful form of leverage, right? If you can find talent and they can do a lot, and you can do a lot more in general as a business. So question, how do you know when it's time to add people leverage? And that's a question I get a lot is, well, how do I know when I need to add a person and who that person is that I need to add? And a good question to ask yourself is, which activities make me money and how am I spending my time? Another one that I like that they add in this particular course is what activities bring me joy. And that's not something I remember to talk about a lot, although I do often ask people, and this is a good question to ask yourself, is if I could, knowing what I know about my business, if I could do one thing all day in my business, one thing, one aspect, what would that be? And usually that answer is based on what you love, what you enjoy doing most and what you're good at, because usually those things go hand in hand. So ask yourself, if I could do one thing in my business all day, what would that be? And for a lot of you, and most often, it's gonna be being in front of clients, being on, you know, going on showings or taking listings. Some of you might not like to work with buyers. Some might only like to work with sellers and vice versa. So how do you spend your time? Which activities make you money? Which activities bring you joy? And if you are spending time on activities that don't bring you either joy or money, okay, that's one tip, right? That's one cue to look at what they're calling subcontracting, to hand that off to somebody else in a certain way, whether it's money or free. So we'll talk about that. So on your page 8, which was the first course page that I gave you, this is going to be your activity for the moment, which is which of your activities are the most dollar productive. And then you're also going to look at that list and say which bring you joy, which do you enjoy doing and like to do. So what I want you to do is take a couple minutes, jot that down, and answer that question on page 8. Which of the activities are the most dollar productive? And just write down anything you can think of that's dollar productive in your business. And if you're not chatting, just go ahead and mute yourself. I'm going to mute you, Cheryl. I'm hearing some background noise.
It wasn't me. Not this time.
Okay. I'm going to stop sharing for a second so I can look at where that background noise is coming from. Weird. Okay, so somebody, hang on, I'm gonna mute everybody and see if that helps. Okay, I think that fixed it. Let's go back to screen share. Okay, so let's talk about some of the dollar productive activities we're writing down here. So tell me what activities you're doing, and you'll have to unmute, are the most dollar productive in your business. And we're going to see some patterns here, right? I mean, some of these are going to be the same. So tell me what you've got written down there.
Lead generation.
Lead generation. Love that. Thank you, Catherine. Yes. Lead generation. And that can come in many forms. What else?
Face-to-face meetings with clients, coffee,
absolutely,
snacks, meals.
Yep, face-to-face meetings. So that's typically going to be appointments, right? You might have a listing appointment or a buyer consult. Those are definitely high on the dollar productive list. What else?
Making offers.
Offers, writing offers. Definitely dollar productive.
Taking listings.
And taking listings. You guys are good.
Showings, taking listings.
Yep. So yeah, showings go under, you know, face-to-face, right? Going to meeting with clients to look at property.
I like showings.
Yep. Thanks, Caroline. Okay, so now of the list, does anybody else have anything else on the list that they're not really sure about being a dollar productive activity, or that they have that we didn't talk about? Because you might have some other things on your list, and the question really is that dollar productive? So does anybody have questions around that? And also my next question for you is, which of the activities bring you joy? And is there anything that you wrote that doesn't? So another thing that's very interesting that you can do is look at the flip side of this, which is, what am I doing in my daily routine and my daily schedule that is not a dollar productive activity? So the exercise beyond this is really looking at what else is on the list of what I'm doing in a day and what is not dollar productive, right? What is in my bottom 80% that I'm focusing or spending too much time on? Todd, do you have anything you want to add about dollar productive activities that you guys do where you've identified as dollar productive other than what we mentioned?
Yep. Obviously, taking meetings with potential sellers are super highly productive, dollar producing. You know, one thing I think agents forget to think about with a seller is that most listings will turn into buyers as well. So not only will that seller sometimes buy, but people will call from your signs, they'll call from the advertisements, they just call. So many more people are on Zillow and on our RAM page. So you'll end up, I think we figured it's somewhere like 1.5 buyers on each deal that we close. So right in that approximate amount. As for other big dollar productive for my team, at least for myself, for my team, is the recruiting aspect and talking with referral sources. That is the easiest deal in the world to close, is a referral source lead.
Love that. Okay, so the quality of the lead we're talking a little bit about. Also how to leverage, and I love that you mentioned that you get, say, 1.5 buyers for every listing. Is that what you were saying? That I understand that you, for every listing you take. So what do we call that? We actually call that leveraging your listing, don't we? Mm-hmm. So when you take a listing, you want to leverage your listing to do the work for you to capture more business. And so you want to get good at looking at ways to leverage your listing. And you should be converting, for every listing you have, you should be doing about that on the buy side. I think the Millionaire Real Estate Agent model is 2 for every listing that you take. It maybe isn't 2 buyers, but it's 2 other transactions. And it typically is buyers because you're leveraging your listing to capture the buyers. So thank you for that. That's awesome. So let's keep going on the slide. So perspective on people leverage and changing the way that you do business. Begin to change the way you view your business from a do-it-all-yourself enterprise to one that's leveraged with help from others. And for a lot of rainmakers, I mean, Todd already knew he didn't like paperwork. However, Todd, along with a lot of other rainmakers or people who are looking at leveraging or building a team, sometimes have control issues, right? Don't want to let certain things go because you want people to do not just as good as a job as you, but ultimately you want to empower people to do a better job than you. And sometimes that takes failing, right? And sometimes that takes patience, because you're going to have to, if you control everything, you're never going to have leverage in your life. So you have to let go and you have to practice that. And right now with what's going on in the world that we can't control, we have to be able to practice letting go of a lot of things too. So continue that path and know that you're not only by leveraging and doing it the right way, it's going to help you in your life, and you're helping other people and you're empowering them to have a life that's bigger as well. Which we can talk a little bit more about later with Todd. So on your page 9 of your workbook, it just shows I did it versus we do it. Okay. And then the goal is, again, if you ever want to build a business that's going to create passive income for you down the road, which is the goal of a lot of agents, and maybe something for you to think about if that's not your goal, that you want to go on this path of I did it to we do it, and then someday they do it. Right? So that you actually don't have to be in the business every day and you can still get income from the business that you're building. So that's the path, okay? That's the path to leverage. So on your page 10, I included this in your workbook because it's really small on the slide, even though it's on another slide later. It says you have some decisions to make. And this shows you kind of the people leverage tree, like the flow chart of asking questions about, do I need people or not? So the first question is, do you have people to help you? And if the answer is no, then it's get leveraged, okay? And then using the things that we're talking about today, allied resources, subcontract help, maybe staff, maybe an employee, maybe it's just an independent contractor. If you do have enough people and you're somebody who's already been team building, and by the way, a team building could be just you and a transaction coordinator. It could be you and a TC and an admin person. You know, it could be you and somebody that's helping you do marketing for your listings. So there are more people. It's not just somebody who has a bunch of agents that's on their team, but do you have enough people? And then the question is, if the answer is yes, do you have the right people? And if the answer is no to that, we're going to talk about top grading the people that we have, which is another thing in a shift you really want to look at doing. Is if you have several, say, I mean, I know agents that have multiple virtual assistants that are doing different things. One might be database management, the other might be marketing, the other might be transaction coordination. You want to look at how do I, you know, who's my highest level of talent here that maybe has a skill set to do all three things, and I'm only paying one person instead of three. So that's just an example. And then are they doing the right things? Are they doing the right things well, et cetera? If so, praise and reward. So it gives you a little chart here. We don't have to go too much deeper into that. Unless, I mean, Todd, if there's anything else you want to add, I know we're going to get into some more discussions about your people later.
Yeah, I think knowing what your weakness is and hiring to that weakness is probably the best thing as an agent you can do. I think the majority of agents may not need an assistant right away, but what they could really use, and I think, and I do believe that the MRA book just doesn't talk about it because it wasn't really available back then when they were doing the book, is a transaction coordinator. I think I think any agent doing more than one deal a month who's not a paper-orientated person should just get a transaction coordinator. It is the best money you could ever spend. You're not going to drop the ball on deals. I mean, my guess is any agent who's not good at paperwork, that will save them at least one deal a year just for that fact. You know, having somebody not missing anything, and then it frees you up to go back out and sell. So really, just one deal, one extra deal a year pays all your transaction coordination fees pretty much for the year. So if there's any money you can humanly spend that I feel is the best possible investment, by far, TC. And they're pretty much commission-based as well as you are. So if the deal doesn't close, depending on how your deal's worked out, you may not pay for it. But you know, it's a pay per work deal.
Yeah.
Limiting your payment.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, your first hire, transaction coordinator, that's usually what we recommend. Absolutely. Best return on investment initial hire. Okay, so let's talk about perspective on people leverage, the team concept. So you want to start thinking about your team. And this is not just, again, the people that you employ or even pay as independent contractors, but it's the larger circle of people in your life that are going to help you get to your goals. And we'll look at some examples of that. So on your page 12, you have who's on your team. You should have that in here. Wait, did I give that to you? Page 12. There we go. So who's on your team? So you want to make a list of the people on your team. And it says in here, don't forget your partners, your spouse, your family in general, your friends, fellow agents. We all work, what we want to look at is our whole circle of people that we interact with as we do deals. And the people that support us. So you want to think of your team a little bit more expansive than you might have in the past. And it encompasses a lot more people than you think. So this is a little brainstorming to write down a list of who are all the possible people that you might consider as part of your team. Allied resources, referral partners, you know, wealth building circle, who you refer your clients to or make, you know, give them names to if they're looking for certain people, and then who's supporting you. So start writing that down. Okay, who are some of the people you guys are coming up with that are on your team, part of your circle?
What I put, Lisa, because you can see my office, I have an interior design business. So, which, you know, over 40 years I've been doing this. So my vendors, because I wholesale, I retail, my vendors, my subs, my contractors that I work with, you know, business associates, distributors. I've got a real wide sphere and I need to tap into that more.
Great. Those are all really good. And we'll come back to that when we go right into allied resources and people like that in terms of maximizing that relationship. And then
yeah, and also like I have 2 design degrees and certifications, so I have to take CEs for that. So I want to be able to brand a little better when I go to these events and I'm, you know, networking and things, and also offer my services as a discount to our agents.
Oh, love that. Okay, great. We'll talk more about that later.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like I've got a real broad brush of so many people I know.
Yeah, so one of the things you want to look at, and thank you for sharing that, because I want to go into your allied resources next, and then Todd, I'm going to get your feedback on what you've done. I'm just going to share a little story with you about what I think of when we talk about your team and working with the team and building the relationships with these people. When you talk about vendor partners, allied resources, people that you tend to do business with, or you may refer to, I was part of, some of you may have been part of Business Network International. I was with that company for a number of years. And one of the things that I did really well was referred business to other people. So I would meet with everybody and I would have these one-on-one meetings with any business owner in that group. And during those one-on-one meetings, ask a series of questions. And through that process, by the end of that meeting, I would usually have a referral for that person. And often they would have a referral for me. And it was because we took the time to sit down and have that conversation about their business and how you could help and what does their perfect client look like, or tell me about the last 10 people you worked with. I might know somebody. And it's that kind of giver's gain philosophy that if I help you and then there's reciprocity and you help me. So think about how you can work with your teams. And for those of you who are not busy having listing appointments and buyer consultations every day because things are shifting for you in your business, think about what I would suggest you look at and think about is replacing those appointments with other appointments of other business owners or people that are potentially in this group that you're coming up with in the list, so that you can really connect with those people and help them in their business, and they'll in turn help you in your business. But you should not be going a day, you know, or multiple days without appointment slots in there. So if you don't have a buyer and a seller to meet with somebody. Dan Palomino, who's our leadership on the Big Island in Kona, had a great thing he shared, and I keep using it as an example, and I think I said it at one of the shifts, is he did a whole program, he called it 52 lunches. And what he did, and it was to help him build and grow his business, which turned into about a $40 million business. And he would have one lunch a week, so 52 lunches, right? 52 weeks with somebody he knew in his sphere, or whether it was a past client or somebody he knew that was a business owner. And he would just have these lunches once a week. And that helped him grow and build his business. So just an idea about thinking differently about the people that are on this team list that you're creating. So Todd, will you talk to us a little bit about your experience in this area and kind of who you work with? Doesn't have to be a specific person, but what you've done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a couple different avenues that I think some of the agents can go through. Personally, I have a pretty hard conversation with anybody that I give a chunk of business to, and pretty straightforward about it. You know, I just say, hey, you know, if what we do is we review, me and Daniel will pull up how many deals we gave to somebody, whether it's an inspector, a title agent, a loan officer, whoever it is, an insurance agent. And I'll say, hey, we did this amount of business with you last quarter. I need to know what I can expect back from you. And I'm very blunt about it because I want to see where they're going to go with it. I don't want money from them. Money's not worthless, of course, but that's not what I'm looking for. I am looking for them to say, well, I don't have any deals to give you. That's all I need to hear, because then I can say, are you willing to learn how to get those deals? And if they say no, honestly, they're getting cut out of my business plan real quick. But my reps, I'll give you an example. My inspector, he's given us a couple deals. He actually just closed on his own personal deal with him last week. My title rep gives me a chunk of business every single year. My lenders help with marketing as well as with bringing me buyers. So I expect, not only do I expect, I demand that if I'm going to put this amount of money into your pocket, you should be compensating me with bringing me other clients, referring people to my downline, other avenues. And, you know, I looked on the participant list, and there's some heavy hitters as well as some other rainmakers on there. You know, I hope that those people on there, that you guys are doing the exact same. You know, it's unfortunate when I hear from people, well, my husband's a realtor, that's why I can't refer business to you. Great. I hope your husband can help support your business. You know, how can you help support my business? That, I think it has to be a two-way street. I think as realtors, we have been abused. I mean, the reality is, granted, you know, some realtors are hard to deal with the way they talk with their lender stuff, but at the end of the day, we're providing them business. We are not the only portion of business, but we definitely strongly support our inspectors, escrow companies, our loan officers. I mean, there's so much that we give to them that they should compensate us back with some kind of agreement, bringing us deals, or at least putting our name out to other people. And how you do that is up to you. You have to really train them to do that. I have had one-on-ones with them, how they bring it up to other clients. One thing that I have found I am not great at is social media. I don't post that much except when I'm on vacation or pictures of my dog or food. So I'm not great at that. But there's some great examples like the Harris, Tammy and Don Harris are really good at the Millers. I mean, these guys spend probably, I'm guessing 6 to 8 hours a day on social media, because you always see them posting or answering on everything, and they get business. Kamai, I know she's not with us anymore, but if you look at people that have really made a focus, and this is how they're getting business back in return, you just got to figure out which route you want to go, but have some kind of route. You can't just be sitting open houses or making calls or sitting by your phone hoping for it to ring. You really have to go out and try to make it a reciprocal business so it's back and forth. I think those are some of the things that I would suggest to everybody. But just pick what avenue works for you. Some people are great with family and friends. I unfortunately am not. I mean, I don't have any family that lives on islands. Well, my daughter, but my daughter's boyfriend's a realtor, so that doesn't help much. So you just got to kind of figure out which avenue you're going to try getting other business from. But there's so much more than just what we've been used to. And this is where your mind just has to open up and expand and think about it.
Awesome, Todd, thank you. Yeah, I think just a couple added points to that, and what I'm hearing you talk about is really, it's about reciprocity. I mean, it's about helping each other grow business, and I would say talk to your broker. I mean, you got to go, like with title companies and lenders, obviously there's going to be, the conversations really are about, teach them how to be a salesperson for you, which is kind of what you're saying, Todd, is, hey, are you willing to learn and help me grow my business? The tracking is good that you track that on your side. I just want to caution people, just broker hat on for a second, to be careful and to talk to your brokers when you're dealing with title and mortgage, that you don't go into, the RESPA world or potential violation of RESPA issues, because you have to be a little bit careful with that. But in general, the principle of reciprocity, and anybody that you're working with and doing business with, yeah, it's a two-way street. I want to help you. Let's help each other grow our business. Let's grow together. And anybody who's new, or that that's a friend of yours that's starting a new business, it's a great time to start that relationship too, to say, let's help each other grow, or that's in the same level that you are. So yeah, thank you for that. I think that gets people really thinking about the conversations that they're having. And yes, we want to provide the best service for our clients with the people that we work with. And there is more than one good lender out there. There is more than one good inspector out there, right? So on your page 14, it gives you just kind of some examples, and I'll let you go through that on your own. A couple just highlights, it talks about things that you can use as resources. For example, mortgage or title companies creating statistics, right? A lot of you send out their stats, use that in your marketing. So that's an example. Lender partners, pre-qualifier, pre-approved buyers, and developing that relationship up front with your clients or potential clients. And then it just gives some other ideas, okay? Like creating an internship position for somebody who wants to learn more. I mean, you might be able to find somebody that wants to do that, to learn, that can kind of be, also help you with things, and you're not paying them, but they're interning and you're helping them learn. So just some ideas there, okay? Any other thoughts or questions or takeaways from Allied Resources? We'll talk more about AHAs and takeaways at the end, but any comments, anything you want to share? Okay, ready to go into subcontract? I'll force you guys at some point to talk. Okay, so let's talk about subcontracting. Yes.
I put it in the chat box, but people.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Not take money, right? We're not looking for money here. We're looking for leads.
No. Yeah.
Violation. Yeah.
I don't know why I can't open the. Hang on. Let me stop share for a second so I can open the chat box. Ah, there's stuff in the chat box. Okay, let me just catch up real quick here. So Cheryl, if you're on my Zoom and you make a note in the chat box, please put that it's you. Because it's very confusing to me when I see a note from myself that I know I didn't write. It's like creepy. Okay. Joe says video posting on social media, face-to-face meeting with clients, TC, sorry, that was back when Todd was talking about the TC. Leslie's asking a question, how do you do that with the stay-at-home order? Can you, Leslie, remind me what the question is regarding the stay-at-home order and what people are doing? Because I think we can address that. RESPA, yes, right, never take money.
That was about the lunch, the 52 lunches, I think.
Oh, Zooms. Everything is Zoom right now. Like, so whatever we're talking about in live, in person, get creative. Like, get food from the same place, or like make the same dish and have a lunch and chat, like, or a drink. I mean,
Why don't you just
Yeah.
deliver it to them?
You
Have
could
it delivered
deliver.
to
You could
them.
have food delivered to them. That's cute. Yeah, I like it. Okay, I said Leslie, so that was Jasmine. You're on a different thing. What did Todd mean by help vendors learn how to market you? So I don't know, Todd, Daniel's asking if you want to talk about how you teach them. I did the same thing in the networking group I was in. So is there a certain script that you give them? Do you have them, how do you have them talk about you and share?
I take each person individually and see what their style is and kind of create something for them. One that I did was, you know, whenever the conversation, because they knew that person had something to do with real estate. So whenever the conversation came up, anything real estate related, said, hey, you know, I'm not a realtor, but you know what, I work with a great realtor and I'd be happy to put you in touch with them. What I have taught, okay, so here's a little secret sauce, ready? Never, ever, ever have your referral source give your phone number out.
Yeah.
Have them get the phone number to that person. And I have also, after much thought process thinking about it, I very rarely give cards out to my preferred vendors who get me business. And I barely keep cards around. When we read Shift as a team, like 12 or 18 months ago, and I saw how Gary he never carries cards. This way he can get their phone numbers from them. It's been a very big difference changer because I used to have my vendors always say, oh, well, I gave your number out this time. I gave your number out this time. And after I had read the Shift with my team back then, I retrained them all again. I said, hey guys, this is how we're going to go about doing this right now. All you got to do is give me their name and number and say, hey, Todd's going to reach out to you at some point. He's just going to give you a call in the next day or two. And I try to follow up immediately with a text to that person. Hey, I got your number from so-and-so. I'll try to reach out to you tomorrow. Is there any time that works in particular? I will tell you less than 50% reply. I don't really care because I'm going to usually call them the next day.
Great.
Does that
So
help,
yeah,
Daniel? Is that kind of what you were asking?
So that's one big point about teaching them to get the contact information. That's definitely one of the ways to train them. And then just a little bit of scripting so that or a little bit of for their antenna to be up. I mean, the reason that you have the conversation a lot is so that they can pay attention to people that are looking to buy or sell. I mean, obviously, if they're in the industry, they're probably going to hear that more often. However, I've done it with other types of business owners that have nothing to do with real estate, and yet they refer because you cause their antenna to go up about listening for conversations about real estate. And then guess what happens? That they do. They pay attention. They start to hear it. It's probably around them. It's like the whole idea that you buy a car and then you didn't see those cars on the road before, and now that you bought that car, you see it everywhere. It's the same idea. Okay. And Todd's saying, great. So Daniel's saying, yes, great point. I do that at Opens. Awesome. And then Todd says, if you need help with this, feel free to reach out to me anytime. Todd, why don't you put your number in the chat box? And then I'll go back into the PowerPoint. And I'm going to reshare. Here we go. All right. So going back into PowerPoint. So let's talk about subcontractors, which Carol Ann mentioned a little bit when she was talking about specifically, contract related stuff, but let's talk about bookkeeping, accounting. So if you look at your page 16, it says free partnerships with allied resources are a great creative way to get more done without adding personnel overhead to your operation. So if your finances allow, you may need to take the next step and contract with professionals to help you address specific business and personal needs. So here's some ways that you can leverage. And so bookkeeping, accounting, I always tell people hiring my bookkeeper was probably the #1 best thing that I did in terms of my own time, my own peace of mind and stress level, because I'm not great at it. I can do it. I don't love it. I don't love to hang out there. And so I would dread doing it. And then I would have to do it. And then it would take me forever. And I'd have to go back through all my statements. I really didn't maintain QuickBooks well. And as soon as I hired a bookkeeper, I just couldn't believe it. The next time I did my taxes, like she sent me everything. It was already categorized. She already put everything in. It was just me looking at it. So bookkeeper, highly recommended. Data entry. So you might have somebody that helps you do data entry, like your MLS entry for listings or paperwork related to that. And that can be somebody that's also doing other things for you. It might be your TC that's also can do data input for you, database administration. That's also critical. That's usually the thing that I tell people to do next if they're looking to hire, they need some leverage and they're looking to hire like a virtual assistant. Database management, talk about return on investment. That's a return on investment for you. If you are maintaining your database, creating your touch campaigns, staying in touch with those people, that's going to be the primary source of additional transactions for you. So with the right person in the right system, doing the right things, you know, that's an easily triple your business investment. Okay, chat box. Let me see if I can, for some reason. Okay, there we go. Oh, RAM. Yeah, Todd's reminding us. So for Maui agents, Realtors Association of Maui will also input your listing for pretty cheap if you want to do it. You send Larry the listing paperwork. It's 20 bucks, I think, or 20 or 25 bucks. He'll input a listing for you. So, and I don't know, you could check with your boards for those of you on Big Island and Oahu and Kauai, you can check with your boards to see if they'll do something also. Okay, Carol Ann, you need somebody to help with your website. You know, we can talk about that. That would probably be, you know, a virtual assistant, or actually we have Scott Leroy Marketing. So I'll talk to you about that later. Okay, where do you find professionals who are looking for part-time per transaction and short-term work assignments? So anybody have any ideas of where you might find somebody that's going to do something like data entry, appointment scheduling, stuff on this list, marketing related stuff? Oh, West Hawaii, okay, doesn't offer that. Andy, thank you for letting us know. Okay, well, so maybe, you know, maybe that's a conversation with them. I don't know. You're in a good position there. Fiverr, yeah. So Jasmine's asking about Fiverr. Yeah, Fiverr is a great source too, and you can pay. It's like per project. Look at their website, fiverr.com. There's actually a lot of really cool things. They do a lot of marketing stuff on there too. So where else might you find somebody that could do that kind of thing? You guys have kids? Just kidding, but not really. You know, interns, people who want to learn. There are VA companies. So we have a lot of resources. If you're looking for a VA company or people that do specific things, just reach out to me and I will share some of those companies with you. Jordan says new licensees that don't have a business yet. Yes, that's awesome. That's absolutely true. Great resource. Mommy and Me groups, Anne Marie saying there's oftentimes mom looking for nap time jobs. It's funny. Okay, I just learned a new term today. Instead of part-time, it's nap time. And then there's, you know, there's traditional companies, I mean, that you can use for VA, like My VA Team is one that our agents work with a lot. We have Agentology, which is an ISA company. We have, what are some of the other ones, Todd, that we use? If you can think of others, or Keone, let me know. But those are some of our go-tos. I know there's another VA company that we've used too that have services. MyOutdesk.com. Yep, that's another one. Okay, and those are ones that are going to cost you money, but again, if you're really purposeful about what these guys are doing, and you may need some help with that, and you may need to take some time to figure out a job description for them, and we'll talk more about that later when we get into career visioning. So let's talk a little bit, Todd, for you. Steve's saying talented people in transition. Totally, like, yeah, they're leaving one job and going into another or coming into a new career. That's a great one. So Todd, let's talk about what you do with, you know, virtual assistants right now, as far as your team and how you've kind of navigated your way through that.
I don't personally like VAs. I think it has to do with that I'm not the perfect setup person. Like I said, I kind of suck at paperwork, so I'm not real good at, I like having somebody in front of me. I have tried VAs more than once. I tried it for TC work and it was a failure. It depends on how you use it. I would say if you really are going to go towards a VA route, you should contact the Lollies. They are masters at the VA issue. I use the VA I do have is on a part-time basis, or per work basis. I have two of them, one that does website stuff for us, and then the other, and some integration with my CRM, and then another one who does straight data pulling and information. So that's the only way I personally use them. I think if you are really good at setting your expectations and setting out the exact guidelines of what you're expecting, and you're really good at keeping them to that, then a VA is perfect. Unfortunately, I found that I need somebody that I can, talk to immediately right in front of me. And that was just my experience. Like I said, and I think that's a different personality type for each individual.
Right. So what you're saying is you found that for you, it wasn't a fit. And you also maybe had a challenge with the training process with them or finding the right talent. And so you chose to focus on having people help you physically in person, not virtual, but you still have leverage. You still have people doing these things for you. They're just in-house.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think nobody is going to be the perfect agent. I see Josh Sherman is on here. That guy doesn't sleep. I mean, there's a perfect example of an amazing realtor who, 4 o'clock in the morning, you're getting an email, and at 10 o'clock at night, you're getting emails from him. He has really perfected doing a lot of that stuff. I'm not good at it. So I think knowing your talents and knowing how you take advantage of those talents and you use them for your benefit, but leverage is by far the only way you can move up as an agent, or you're working pretty much 20 hours a day. It's not possible.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of agents can relate to that, those late night responses or early morning. And really the key, even though we tend to control that and we want to be responsive to people, how do we find that so that is not something that we're doing all the time regularly, because that's, I mean, people like to operate that way. I think the goal is really to get away from that and to just figure out where you can leverage so that you can focus on the things that are most important, and really setting parameters around your schedule, because that's really your call. And again, no judgment. Anybody can function any way they want. I'm not saying don't do it. My point is, if you want to do it, and actually, Todd, one of your team members was a good example of this, which was Sarah, who was running into challenges about her schedule because she's a rock star and she's working all the time. And yet she also wanted to be able to spend more time with her family and not have to be so reactive. And it was a little bit stressful. So what I suggested that she do, so there were 2 things that she did that I think were tremendously helpful. And these are things that I've done in my life and I've seen other agents do. One of them is training your clients. So one of them is you create one thing I had her do specifically as an action item is a voicemail that talks about her business hours, right? So now she has a voicemail that says, I take appointments, I'm taking calls from this time to this time, and my appointment schedule is this time to this time. And if it's this time, I'm going to get back to you. I mean, Randy does that really well too, right? Randy never lets that infringe upon his time, almost never. And so he'll say, I work from this time to this time and I will get back to you, whatever, tomorrow. So you're setting those parameters. It's on your voicemail. So people are calling and they're getting the information that they need. And will somebody fire you because of that? I mean, probably not. Maybe a client will once in a while. And guess what? If they do you think that's okay? It's probably okay if they expect you to be responding at midnight and they get mad at you for not responding at midnight and they fire you. Like, good luck. That's not really a client you necessarily want to have. So it's training them. It's creating your voicemails and just determining what your work hours are going to be. And then the other one was, I told her that I turned off my notifications on my phone when I went on a cruise like a year and a half ago. I don't know, it was July, whatever that is. And I was going to be on a boat and I was like, well, I'm really not available. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off my text notifications, my email notifications, my phone call messages and notifications, and I'm just going to check it on my own schedule. And I did it. And first of all, it created immediately a stress reliever. And now guess what? I never turned it back on. And you know me, you guys that know me, I work a lot. I'm pretty responsive, but I look at those things on my own schedule. What it also does, you may not know this, is when you get a response and a ding comes through your phone, it creates a chemical reaction in your brain and it produces cortisol. And too much cortisol is bad for you, and it creates anxiety and stress. So it's literally a way to reduce the stress by just doing one thing. So I would challenge you to do that. That's just a little side note and tip. Totally off on a tangent. Yes.
Lisa, sorry to interrupt. This is all great information. But just one thing that I've found with that, when speaking to training the client, is that if I say, look, if you give me a call, I return all my calls between 6 and 7:30, whatever time frame. So I'll get back to you. They know that I'm going to call back between that time frame, and then they're not anxious about hearing back from me. They're not getting mad about me not calling back. They absolutely know that between a certain hour they're going to get a call, and that seems to work out well, and it makes us more professional.
Totally. I mean, I love that. And yeah, as long as they know you're going to get back to them, they tend to be okay. It's the same thing I tell people. It's the same thing we teach agents when they don't know an answer to a question. It's exactly what you're talking about. It's okay not to know, and don't make it up, and just say you don't know. And really it's, well, what I would always say is, that's a great question. If somebody asks me a question I don't know the answer to, which by the way, we don't know the answer to anything, no matter how long we've been in this business, I would say, that's a great question. I will get back to you on that. Let me just check or find out, or whatever it is. How about I get back to you by tomorrow at 10 a.m.? Would that be okay with you? Yes. Then you don't have a problem. You're setting the expectation. So thank you for mentioning that, Anne-Marie. I'm just putting in here that, okay, I see Jasmine, 2 of you are using that account. Todd mentioned VAs and a team. So in the Honolulu office, in the KW Honolulu office, there is a team, the Lally team, and they do use VAs at a very high level. So he volunteered them for you to reach out to them and ask them questions. And we have leaned on them quite a bit when it comes to VAs. Todd says you disagree. Yeah, Todd, I know you're very responsive. You answer the phone all the time. You're completely, and that's okay. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, good or bad. It's really a question about what you prefer and how you build your business, and what the expectations are that you set with clients, and how you want to live your life. I'm just saying, if you don't want to be working, or that stress is getting to you, or you want to gain a little bit more control of that, that's a way you can do it. It's an avenue, right?
No,
yeah. And Karen's saying
that part, like my phone goes off at 9 o'clock. But that's because my phone will ring at 3 o'clock in the morning, because I have idiot friends who live in New York and they'll just call me when they wake up. So I definitely, and I wake up at 4:35 every morning, but I do not touch my phone till about 6:30. So there is that time frame that I don't answer the phone, but I personally believe if it's a work hour time, you are insane not to answer the phone. That is just my deal. But I will tell you what, I get a minimum of 2 extra deals a year, minimum. And that's including agents that don't answer their phone. And I know for sure, because they'll tell me, they'll say, well, I called this person, you were 3rd on my list. And I'm like, well, I should have been 1st on your list. But at that point, I truly believe in answering the phone all the time. And if not, I have a text message I can go to them quick. Or my guarantee to every client is 1 hour turnaround time. If it's within that time frame of the day, you will get a call back within an hour. And I hear it so many times from clients, my agent did not call me back, and that's why I'm using you. So
yeah, we
you're
do
going
get
to
that.
do your business any way you want, but I will say you have to make a decision how your business is going to run. So you just choose which way is best for you.
Yeah. Thank you. I think we're saying the same thing, because you just gave your guidelines. It's just a matter of everybody's individual guidelines, right? Like, these are the guidelines in which you work. So 4:30 to 6:30 is your time where you're not responding. And you mentioned work hours. So what are those work hours? I think everybody just defines that. Go ahead, Josh, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just to comment about scheduling. And so, Todd mentioned me working at 4 a.m. in the morning and also working late. So over the years, I've learned to schedule my emails to go out at a different time than when I write them. And so I found this to be really helpful. So I can power through emails, for example, with someone on the West Coast, and I can write the email at 4:35 in the morning and then send at 8 a.m. Hawaii time, or then the same night if I'm up late working. And I'll often, I write several emails a day where I do have a scheduled delivery on them. The other thing that's kind of fun too is that if someone is emailing me consistently, let's say at 11 o'clock at night, I kind of like having fun with them just to send them an email at 4:30 in the morning. And so you can play around with it, and not necessarily I'm up at 4:30, but you can trigger it and play with it too in that sense.
Love it. Thank
And
you.
the other thing
That's
about
great.
doing as well, and also too, and I use that time release email often to follow up on important things throughout the day, like when an escrow is going to fund. So like I'll often be out with clients middle of the day, and an escrow will be funding at 11 o'clock in the morning or 12, and I'll have that email already set to go out. I'll write it at 6 in the morning, and so it'll go out at noon to the escrow officer. And so when I'm out driving around, I'll see the response come back on my phone saying, "Oh, no, great, this deal funded," which takes some pressure off seeing that come back in the course of the day. So I use that for the.
That's a great tip. Thank you. The time
Another thing
release
too,
emails.
Yeah. The other thing is, and lastly is, years ago, and I know a coach likely told you the same thing, is that they love the real estate business because you get to choose which 14 hours of the day you work.
Yeah.
Yes. So taking that to heart though, going through what we are now, I'm liking not working 14 hours a day. And so this is a good lesson and a good practice to sort of, as things ramp back up in business, to then layer back in only the things that are important and only that we want. Because without this happening, I don't think there would have been a way to really turn the faucet off.
Yeah.
But this has provided opportunity. And so now we have to focus on what's important, and then also sort of rebuild our business in a way that we want it to flow and how we want it to be structured.
Great. That is awesome. Yes, it's a great opportunity to start again and to make those, and to define exactly what you want it to look like, because now you know, and you have all of that perspective, and it's giving you a moment to breathe. So that's awesome.
It's it's really setting expectations for your client, right? If you have a voicemail that doesn't say anything, or you haven't talked to them previously, they're just like, where is this person, right? But if you have a voicemail that says the things like Anne Marie said, she puts a voicemail so that they can expect something, right?
Yes.
If you just have a blank voicemail, just, leave a message, they're out in Nowhereville, right?
Right.
If you've had that conversation and you have the voicemail to back it up, that's the way it goes, right? But in the end of the day, I agree with Todd. You answer your phone, right? Especially if you're just starting out. You're working, right? Like Josh said.
Hey, I didn't say don't answer your phone.
Choose the 14 hours you want to work and make it happen.
I love it. Steve says, voicemail script, aloha, this is Steve, blah, blah, blah. If it's after 6 or Sunday, I'll call you back on the next business day. So that's what you use. That's great. Joe says no right or wrong, but if I'm in front of a client, I will not pick up or look at the phone. So if you're with a client, right? So difference between customer service and being salesy, that's just me. And that's a good point, Joe, because in coaching, some of the times what we say is, if you were with another client, would you pick up the phone? And most often than not, a realtor will say, no, I'm not, because I'm with that client. And then we say, well, then that's a priority issue. And that's where you're determining what's most important and not. So if you're have an appointment with your son or daughter or spouse, or if it's a personal thing, or maybe it's another business opportunity or a class, you're not answering your phone. So what are you doing? You may be answering your phone. That's up to you. Or somebody else may be answering your phone for you. And I know agents that will redirect their cell if they are going to be an appointment to somebody else on their team that will answer the phone to make sure that it gets picked up, right? Like Lance Loken's a great example of that. So that's a great point. Thank you for that. How do you set up your emails? Karen, to go out at a different time, you can program that in your email. So that's kind of a technical thing we can do later. I don't know. If it's a quick thing, Josh, but I kind of want to get back on track. Just know that it's possible for you to program your emails to go out. Google it. No, you can reach out to Josh. He'll tell you. volunteering him. Okay. Rolando already answered the question. You're so awesome. Okay, Rolando, I just need to keep reading down the chat box. There you go. Copy that and see what Rolando, he told you how to do it. Todd says, I agree, Joe, the 1 hour rule. Perfect. All right, you guys, that's great masterminding. That's awesome. I love it. Thank you for that. Keep it up. Okay, so let's go to communicate your expectations and standards, which is a perfect segue with what we're talking about in expectations and standards. In this case, we're talking about people that you're working with instead of your clients. So are you ready, willing, and able? Are you ready to subcontract professionals to help you with specific needs? Is your business, sales volume, budget, etc., able to support this decision at this time? Why or why not? Which tasks will you contract out, and who do you know that can help you address these needs? So based on everything we just kind of talked about, and even if you want to take the notes section below on page 20 to write some notes about everything everybody just contributed to, that would be great. Go ahead and start to answer some of those questions right now in your booklet on page 20. Okay, while you guys are doing that, Keone's reminding me about taking a break because I don't tend to do that. So we're just going to take a 5-minute break and then you guys finish up finish up page 20 and then we'll take a few minute break and then we'll kind of reconvene, say at 2:18. It's 2:11 on my clock right now, 7 minutes. That way, if you have to like go take care of anything, you can do that. Just don't get too far away in your house. 2 more minutes, you guys. Okay, you guys, let's regroup. So before we start again on your packet and the PowerPoint, I'd love to hear what you guys wrote to some of the questions as far as, are you ready to subcontract? Which tasks are you going to look to contract out? I love the question about, is the business able to support that, and why or why not? So who would like to share some of their answers, some of the things that they discovered and wrote? Who wants to subcontract out, and who's looking to do that, and what are they looking for?
I've been looking into subcontracting for help on command. This is Catherine.
Okay, great. Great. So do you need a resource for that, or do you have one?
Well, I've been talking to a couple of resources. One is substantially less than the other, and they're also the requirements for number of hours worked is less, which I'm more attracted to because I really don't know how much help I really need. And
yep.
And also with hard times right now, transactions it has slowed down, obviously significantly.
Sure.
That I'm spending less and committing to less, but it is a 6-month commitment, and I kind of am on hold right now. I really need to, I know I need to organize myself quite a bit to hire someone, because they're not going to know everything about command. So I'm still going to be having to know how it works. And so I've been spending a lot of time researching and attending classes on it, so I know what I want done and how I want it done.
Great. Yeah, and that's the key. So I think you hit it right there on the head as far as, so this is what you identify what you maybe need help with, and then you identify exactly what it is that you want done and how you want it done, so that you can set that person up for success. I think one of the challenges people face is when they do leverage out, what they discover is they don't have the ability, or they haven't really thought through it enough to set that person up for success. And then they throw it at that person isn't trained, and they don't have to be fully trained, but at least expectations, guidelines, right? Following career visioning. So yeah, get that set up, come up with a 30, 60, 90-day plan for them. That's great. Okay, what else? What else did you guys write down? So she's talking about, for those of you who don't know, it's a platform that controls the database management system, marketing, campaigns, all that stuff.
Hi, I'm Kimberly, or Tweedles, from Keller Williams, Honolulu.
Hello there.
Hi
Tweedles.
there. So now that I'm home, I am using my college-age daughter. I'll be paying her an hourly fee to input all of the business cards that have just accumulated over the last 2 years for me.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Data input. That's such a great thing to do. Data input and then set up campaigns for those people, reintroduce yourself.
Yes.
Love it. Andy says website setup. Yeah, that's a good one. So I can talk to you more about that, Andy. Actually, Scott Leroy will do that for you. Marketing. Okay. Unless you're talking about a completely separate independent customized site, which you can customize that one. So you may not need to do anything for that or spend any more money. Okay, so good segue into, I took out the slide in the last 2 classes. I just wanted to touch on it, which is getting the most out of this experience, meaning any training that you're doing with us or anyone else, you want to be an explorer on this chart. You want to be curious about the knowledge, skills, and tools. You want to participate, ask questions, get involved, because that's how we learn, and we help each other learn by the things that you're sharing and the questions that you're asking. So it's just a reminder to approach these trainings and every training as an explorer and not somebody that feels like they're forced to be here, which, you know, you're not. I really appreciate you guys being here. I think it's, I appreciate your time, and I want to make sure you get value from that. So please continue to participate, and thank you to those of you who are. Todd, info on what, Todd? I know you sent me a message, but what info about website? Tell me what you have info on, and then.
Yeah, so on your sales, I think everybody, before they start hiring out subcontractors, I think you want to look at what your GCI is and what you're planning on keeping from that to help determine. The numbers I have personally found that worked best was, as a single agent, I wanted to keep at least 85% of my split. In payouts, I would be willing to pay out up to 15% of that amount for extra people to help. As my team has grown, I think the number is you want to be somewhere around 40–45%. I try to run around 65%, so we do go pretty lean and mean on that. But you have that budget in mind first, so then you know what people you're going to subcontract out to. And again, it's really focusing on what you're not good at or what things can help grow your business. That's the important thing. You don't want to just hire out people so you can sit at home and watch TV. It's, you know, it's really leverage that you want to use that for. And I hear that.
Yeah,
like,
it's a great point.
But you know, do it smartly. And I think that is the way you look at how you bring in those people to subcontract for you.
Awesome. Thank you. Great points. Yeah, Todd's really good at his profit margin being very high. He manages expenses very well. Sometimes I accuse him of not actually spending enough money, which is very unusual for me to say, but it's because, you know, he's grown very quickly. And so he's kept a pretty tight rein on that, and he's doing a great job, and his profit margin is really high compared to some other teams. And the other point he made, which I think is a really good one, is if you do leverage these things out and now you have more time, which is the plan, that you spend that time getting more business. It's not right, sit on the couch, because otherwise you're going to go downhill, right? Your expenses, you're going to dry up your business. So love that. Thank you for that. Okay, let's move on to hire the best. So the next step is to hire now permanent staff. Now, many of you on the call are not going to be at a place where you're really hiring a salaried position. However, some of you may be at that place. If you are, you know, I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but it does say employing others represents a greater commitment, and remember the rules to follow. And Gary says, you know, first leads, then income, then help. So you have to have the business to support, you have to have the business and the income. Like Todd's saying, it's a percentage of your gross commission income. You don't get help to build your business. You do once you have the income coming in, right? So you want to lead with revenue. If you are going to be every position in your company and your business and your team until you have the money to hire that person. So meaning you are the transaction coordinator, you are the admin person, you are your database management and your marketing person. And then when you get to the point where you have the revenue to then hire out your first hire, you do that. Okay. And then you're going to continue to lead with revenue. And the general rule when people ask, well, when am I ready to hire on another agent or bring on another team member? And the answer I almost always give is when you have more leads than you can handle. Now that's not true for like a transaction coordinator, because a transaction coordinator is going to leverage you for the deals that you have in escrow, assuming you have some deals, so you can go out and get more deals. That's leveraging you firsthand. As far as adding agents or really team building, when you look at adding other agents, that's going to be when you have more leads than you can handle. Your lead gen is coming in consistently. And you can rely on that, because otherwise you're going to make a commitment to help support somebody else, whether you're doing it through splits and commission or whether you're doing it through salary. You're now responsible for helping that person. And that's a responsibility that some people, you want to take that seriously. So let's look at page 24 in your book. And I'm just going to briefly go over the what we call career visioning, or it's the leverage series. It's another training course that we have, and I'm just going to give you some general takeaways from that for those of you who haven't been through that class or don't know what it is or are looking to hire. This is the 4 kind of steps to what we call the career visioning process. So when you are going to work with somebody, anybody else that you're going to bring onto your team, number 1 is you want to screen them. Okay, so you want to determine if they have the knowledge, skills, and track record and personality or behavioral style to do well in that role, okay, to move forward into the next step of the process. So that's the first thing, and you can do that with some kind of an assessment. We use a KP, what we call a KPA, to do that, a Keller personality assessment. And then number 2 is the interview process. So you're going to objectively evaluate the candidate through interviews and questions. So you're going to do thought questions. You're going to, again, look at that skills assessment and go through that with them. 3 is learn about the candidate from others. So we're going to do reference checking. We're going to do what we call a defensive interview. We're going to do a life story, and we're going to learn about that person at a very deep level, make sure their goals are in alignment overall with ours in the long term. And then the commitment. Then after we've done all that, which by the way, takes about 8 hours. I mean, if you really boil it down to how many hours you're spending with one person on just working on that with them, it's approximately 8 hours, could be 10. And then number 4 is is the commitment. Set this future employee or contractor up for success, like we talked about, by presenting the offer within a context of mutual expectations. So we have what we call an expectations conversation. I can't stress enough how critical going through this process is. Todd, would you like to speak to that?
This is probably the thing I am the most anal about whatsoever in my business. So this is how actually I ended up at Keller, was going to this class, and probably 8 months later I ended up joining. So I had an absolute horrible time hiring people, because I was hiring friends of friends, spouses of friends. It was a mess. So I had to come up with a game plan. I took this career visioning. I think it was called something different back then. And once I took it, I started putting it in place. Now, it took me a long time to master putting it in place, but I came up with a real easy way how I do it. I probably get 1 or 2 calls a week on average for somebody who'd like to talk about joining the team. And first thing I do is I sit down with them, talk with them, see if I like them, see if they're going to need a lot of hand holding, because I'm not really good at the hand holding. So I need people that can, because I like to say we run at 125 miles an hour at all times on our team. And I got to be able to tell if they can do that from the get-go, or it's not going to be a good fit. So I know some things will fall to the wayside if I'm not careful. So I sit down with them, talk to them, see if I like them. Then I give them a book. It's a very small book, and I expect a book report, and it's got to be done in a week. If they take longer than a week, it's probably not going to be a right fit. I had one agent who wrote the best book report I ever saw. It was 14 pages long. I knew for sure that person would not fit on my team. They were just too detail oriented. It was just too much. Once that book report is done, then I will have a KPA done on them. And then I will sit and validate the KPA. And then I will do a reference check. And I go 3 deep. And by 3 deep, this is where you really get to know who that person is. Recruit select. Thank you, Steve. What I'll do is I let them know that I'm going to call them. And my questions are by no means your average questions, because I need to know if this person is going to work with me and how I work. So I will talk to them, go through the questions, and at the very end, I will ask them for another reference who may share a different point of view or even the same point of view. So usually the first reference is always going to, I think, pat it. You know, they're going to fluff it up. Second, you know, the second deep will somewhat fluff it up a little more, but usually by the third person that I've gone in deep, I really know a lot about a person. I have gotten to ex-boyfriends. You know, I have found some really interesting stuff, and it really helped me in making that decision. After I've done the reference check, I know if I like them enough that I'm going to bring them to my next step, which is seeing if the synergy of them and my team works. My team is pretty much of the utmost importance for me, so I need to make sure I'm not going to throw a wrench in there that clogs it up. I have done that 3 times, and one of the persons I really, really liked, but that person could not play nice in our team, so I just had to move them away from it. And I do every single hire on a 90-day hire. It's a 30, 60, 90. We review through them at those points. And I tell them from the get-go, you will not be put on advertisements. You will not be officially a member of the team. We'll say you're on the team at the moment, but you do not become an official member until after 90 days. Because I need to see them in action. And they when I make the offer, I'm very clear what they must do within that 90 days to stay on our team. Because like I said, if I don't put that out there, I am a softie and I will unfortunately let things go that I shouldn't. So by putting it on paper, they kind of know. And more importantly, what I think happens is my team knows what's expected of any new team member. And my team is very vocal about telling me their feelings on things. So it is what it is. If they haven't made it past 90 days, they're not staying on the team, if they haven't made those requirements. And I've been really lucky. I haven't fired anybody who's made it past 90 days yet. I had one leave because for a different reason, but outside of that, I try to make it where after 90 days, we just know it's a great fit. But my process is a lot longer than most people. And I tell people from the get-go, you're not going to get hired within a couple days. This is going to take a minimum of a week and a half. And sometimes it'll be a week, but I like to set the expectation with them from the very first meeting. I'm going to go in deep to your life. I need to know that it's going to work. The other thing I do is I usually will have dinner with them and their spouse, because I want to see how them and their spouse work together, because we're kind of like in a marriage, so to speak. So I need to know where their parameters are with that mate, so I know that they're going to be okay with them working some crazy hours sometimes.
Yeah, that was a Dave Ramsey thing, right? You just make sure you're not getting into business with crazy. So you meet their their people to make sure that you kind of have some insight, and you want to have that person have buy-in. And like you said, I think, a good point about the 30, 60, 90 day and expectations, and writing it down on paper for clarity, because expectations and a 30-day plan, a 60-day plan, a 90-day plan on paper is not personal, and it's not emotional. It's something you have as an expectation. It's clear. Everybody has clarity going in. And if those expectations aren't met, it's not a personal thing. It's been on paper. I think it's a lot easier to do that. I mean, we also follow the career visioning for our office too. So I think those are great. Thank you for sharing that. Catherine's asking, do you use a KPA for a VA? Did you use KPAs? I talked to Daniel about that. I don't know if, very much. Haven't been able to do reference checks on VAs. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so on your course, page 26, let's go through that together. We're running slightly behind, although it's, because we have a great guest, and this is all really, really important content, and you guys are going to have this stuff. So I might jump ahead in a little bit, but let's get through page 26 together. So here's just another guideline for you. Todd has his own system, although you'll see a lot of common threads between what people follow. So as far as Dave Jinks, he talks about following SAME. So he's looking for people that are smart, quick, and intelligent. He says it's as much about emotional intelligence as IQ, how smart they are, attractive to clients and others, and how they interact with people. They're motivated and they're ethical. So if we look at the difference, and this is one of my favorite charts in the world that I love because it becomes very clear pretty quickly whether you're looking at getting into business with talent or non-talent. And so if you look below, it says that talent on the right finds solutions. So what does non-talent do you think? Brings you what? What do you think non-talent does on page 26? If a talented person finds solutions, what do you think a non-talented person does?
Problems.
They
Work
finds
back to you.
Yeah, they're going to find problems. They're going to bring you problems. And then the next one is a talented person is going to share your goals and fulfill your needs as a natural byproduct of fulfilling their own goals and needs. Non-talent doesn't fulfill your needs and ends up giving you back what? Probably. What do you think? What do they give you back?
Their work.
Their work, exactly. Pieces of their job. You're using them to leverage and they give it back to you. A talent pushes you. Non-talent requires pushing. Yeah, drags you down and requires pushing and may push you back. Talent is continuously raising the bar. Non-talent may not know where the bar is set or even what bar you're talking about. Okay, and then talent demands to be associated with other talent and attracts talent to the team, right? So, and non-talent doesn't care who they spend time with and repels talent from them. This is a really good point too, because what you'll find is if you hire somebody that's non-talent, and this is speaking from experience, you're gonna automatically start bringing the team down to your lowest common denominator. So everybody on the team needs to be at a high level, because what'll happen is even if you have talent on your team and then you put non-talent on your team, that non-talent's gonna rub off on your talent, or your talent might leave because they can't work well with non-talent. So it's really critical who you have together as a whole, and that your least talented person is gonna be that denominator. And then talent, sorry, it's kind of, talks the language of action and results, and non-talent, when they try to talk action and results, they typically can't back it up. So they might say it, but then they're not actually doing the work or following that. So I love that chart. It's been a really good one for me to just be a reminder when I'm faced with that situation. Okay, and then on the next page, your page 28, we're not gonna go really deep into this. You can definitely look at that, and so many of you are on different levels. So what I do wanna show you is this is kind of the 7th level of team building per the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. So it's a great model. We've talked about it a lot as far as a model to study. Now there have been some changes, and Todd mentioned like transaction coordinator wasn't originally, it is on this list. It's usually put in as, it's in the right side. You'll see it under admin and processing, but it used to be hire a first assistant. Well, now we're saying that first person is your transaction coordinator. So basically the idea is if you want to build to a point where you're doing less, or you have a passive income stream for yourself, or you're only doing one part of the business that you love to do, you're going to need to follow some of this model. So the first level is you, the second level is you and probably a transaction coordinator. The third level is going to be an additional admin person, and that person is usually going to do database management, marketing, potentially marketing. And then you may get to the point where you don't want to be 7th level, and you don't want to have a large team. You don't want to have multiple buyer specialists or buyer's agents or listing agents. You might want to hang around level 4 or 5, and you're really great there. You're doing the business you want to do. You're only doing the parts of the business that you enjoy. If you want to end up stepping out of the business someday and having the business run without you, then you want to get as far down as possible in that level, or as far as high up as possible, I should say, in terms of the level, because ultimately most of the agents that I know that are running a 7th level business or even a 6th level business is because they want to go take advantage of other opportunities. So what that does is it frees up your time to be able to go take advantage of other wealth building opportunities and build other businesses. So that, is that your path, is what I would have you start to question and ask yourself what you want that to look like. Like Todd and I are now, we get to be in business in other ways, not just his real estate sales business, you know, being in alignment with us on that. We're business partners in other things too. And that those opportunities would not be possible for either of us if we hadn't been able to learn how to use these models properly. Okay, so a couple of things in the chat box. Let me open that up. Yes, thank you guys for contributing to that exercise. Keone says they add to your business, not take away. Absolutely, that's talent. Oh, is this a question about what other businesses? Oh, yeah. So, you know, ancillary business opportunities. I'll give you a couple of examples, not just ours. So it might be an investment in an ancillary business opportunity, something that's real estate related. I know in Honolulu, there's people that are in business together on, you know, I mean, Danny Hara is a great example. The Yahara team, this was a guy that was doing 28 million every year, like as a team, and changed his business strategy and structure and got that up to, I think last year they did close to 90 million. And now he's able to spend more time with his family and his kids. He now owns other multiple businesses. He works a lot with seniors. And so he started businesses that help seniors declutter their home. That's his business that he owns with partners. He, I don't know, there's some other stuff he does. So multiple businesses. It could be title companies. It could be mortgage joint ventures. It could be property management companies, other business opportunities, right? Or real estate investments. A lot of people are doing wealth building, right? That's our business. We know it. So they're going to buy multiple investment properties and get cash flow from that. That's some example. And I'm answering this because somebody was asking me a question about what some of those things were. Okay. So let's take stock of what you got, and then let's go into some ahas. So take stock of what you got. Where are you now? Do you have the right people? Look for these essential attributes in employees, subcontractors, allied resources, just some guidelines, and it's also on your page 35. Strong work ethic, resilient attitude, trainable and into mastery, meaning that they are constantly learning based and growing, and you know, and coachable and trainable and willing to follow your systems. What is their willingness to follow your systems? You know, if they're like, well, this is the way I do it and I've always done it this way and I'm not going to change that, you know, that may be a problem for you down the road or red flags. So on the bottom of page 35, there's an opportunity for you to write. I want you to do the exercise on 35 and 36. 35 is think about the people that you currently are working with and the goals that you have for your business, and answer the question, what do you want and what do you have now? And then on page 36, go ahead and use the scale of 1 to 10 as you think about the people in your business. So what you want to do is you want to write, and you can use the scale of 1 to 10. What I would have you do is just think about your team members in the left margin, or anybody you're doing business with, and where would you rate them on a scale of 1 to 10 based on their performance. And this could be allied resources or people that you're actually working with or paying to do work for you. So go ahead and take a couple of minutes and do page 35 and 36. Okay, so let's get a little feedback on this. So you don't have to say like who specifically or what score or, you know, what's not in alignment with your goals. What I'd love to know is what did you discover from that exercise? If you can share a takeaway from that you hadn't really thought about before. I know some of you are still working. I'm just looking at the clock. So share with me a little bit about that process, and you can go into this deeper later and do this with everybody that's part of your team. But what are you discovering about that? Who you've got and taking stock in where you're at right now? We're all explorers in this, right? We've all signed up to be an explorer and to share. I know you're working. Okay, chat. Let me open chat. Todd saying he needs to add a couple more to the team. That's what you're noticing. Okay, well, that's great. Yeah, you have high level talent at this time. And so really for you, it's expanding. It's being able to find more talent so that you can maximize the business potential that you have, right? That's great. Anyone else? Anybody discovering that they may want to help somebody self-discover that they might not be a fit? Whether it's what Todd addressed earlier as an ancillary business or a vendor partner, not necessarily somebody on your team, but somebody on your expanded team. Maybe you need to, have a talk with your spouse. No, I'm just kidding, but maybe not. Carol Ann says, the ones I have are 10 and been with me a long time. Awesome. Love my TC, but need to add marketing. That's great. Yes, Keone.
I think for the new people, you're going to get a lot of solicitations from escrow and lenders and all that sort of thing. And you really have to choose them wisely because they do become team members of yours and they need to work the way you work. And sometimes they're trainable and other times they're not. So you might have to move on from them. But be cautious on all these people who are saying, oh, hey, I can do this for you and I can do this for you. If they're not fitting your criteria.
Yeah, and what you want, what your goals are for your business. Thank you for that. That's great. Okay, so we just did this exercise. Do we have the right people? And are your people a behavioral fit? Todd says that's great. That's dead on. KB, Keone, Ball. Escrow officer is critical. Yeah, that person is really critical. You want to make sure that they're doing a great job for the client and at that high level and that they're really supporting you in your business. They can make or break it. Totally, Carol Ann. So then you want to look at, are they a behavioral fit? So on your page 37, and again, you can go into this deeper, but it gives you signs and symptoms. I added this chart because I thought it was really great to look at signs and symptoms of job behavioral discomfort. So if you have somebody that you're working with or that's on your team, if you start to see these signs, you're going to need to address that and have a conversation, or it might not really be the perfect fit for them. And it may not be that they're not a fit for your team. So if you have, say you have somebody that's helping you with marketing, Todd had a great example. I don't know if you want to share it about a situation where you hired somebody who was huge talent and we discovered that they were just on the wrong seat on the bus. And then you just move them to another seat on the bus and discovered this person would probably be a much better fit in this role. And now they've blossomed and are killing it. Yeah.
Yes. Big mistake on my part, but yeah, he went into the right position and has absolutely made a massive difference for my business.
And is happier, right? And you're happier, everybody's happier because they're doing the thing that they're good at and they like. So you also sometimes just have to look at, do I put them in a different seat on the bus instead of off the bus entirely? So fatigue, fear, stress, depression, frustration, insecurity, burnout. I mean, those are things that you really want to look for because the whole purpose is you really want everybody to be ultimately happy. I mean, otherwise, why are we doing this? Daniel says, Dan Ihara used to say your audio doesn't match your video. Yeah, he does that when we were talking before about what people are saying versus what they're doing. So that's another thing to look out for is what they're saying in alignment with what they're doing, what actions they're taking, what activity. that they're doing. Yeah, he's great on that stuff. Thank you for sharing that. And then the last part about this is really about looking at if we do have people on the team, top grading. We talked about that earlier, or de-hiring. And the truth is people often hire employees or people on their team too quickly because they really need it. They're coming from a place of, oh my God, I have to have this help now. And then they end up holding on to them too long when things aren't working out because either they fear making that change, or they're really deep with that person and it's not really the highest level. So top grade, like who do we have that we can combine responsibilities for? And I don't really know where all of you are at. I know some of you, so I know you're at different places. Some of you have large teams, some of you have mid-sized, small teams, some of you are independent agents. So I'm just kind of going through this so you can see what the resources are that are there. Okay, so let's talk about focusing on doing the right things. So make sure your people leverage is adding leverage to your business. So make sure they're helping you to magnify your potential outcome and multiply a force or action to gain an advantage and take your business to the next level. And the other thing is we talked about, right, return on investment is really critical. So is this person really helping me so that I can go out and make more money for the business, or we can make more money together as a team for the business? And then are you doing the right thing? So this is really only kind of applicable to rainmakers who have a team that may have stepped away from lead follow-up. So one of the discoveries that was made in the last shift, and a couple agents talked about this, and I know some agents are doing this now that have big teams, is some of the team rainmakers have gone to the point where they're providing leads for their team members, and then their team members are following up on those leads. So they'll have a lead gen system, say it's online, the agent on the team will make those calls. Whereas if the rainmaker were making the calls, because the rainmaker's conversion may be a lot higher, they can get them to an appointment. So you might have your buyer's agent making 20 calls and get one appointment from the 20 calls, and you as a rainmaker may be able to make 10 calls and get an appointment. So that's twice as much in terms of appointments. You want to start looking at, especially in a shifting market, you got to get back in there and do some of that business and really do the things that are at a high level of conversion. The other thing is empower your people to do it by broadening their skill set and helping them to get better at conversion and focusing on that too. So that's just kind of a side note for the rainmakers. And if you want more information about that, I can share that with you. So it says quit passing out leads, start passing out appointments. So another thing you can do, by the way, is, there are some really good ISAs. If you're taking back the inside sales agent calls and calling leads, that's fine. A lot of times what I recommend to agents that have a lot of potential leads or a database that they're not working and they won't be making the calls themselves, I encourage them to have an inside sales agent make those calls for them and do the conversion and then just hand them off appointments. So it's something to really think about doing. Now you have to spend the money to do that and it has to make sense. But if you go and make those calls yourself and you can convert, it's something you really want to look at doing more of. Train and coach your people to do the right things well. This is a time to be a great leader coach versus a leader boss, and empower your people and help them grow their skill set. And I know Todd, so Todd, we'll kind of talk about too, next week, you're going to talk a lot about lead gen. So I think that's going to be really valuable for people to see what you've done and how you've scaled your business so much and how you handle leads, how you get leads, how that lead flow comes in. So Todd is going to talk more about that next week. He's actually going to be teaching this course on leads next week. So we'll talk about that. I do want to get you guys through a final exercise before we finish. Tools, there's a page in there, and this is just a reminder about systems and tools, right? We talked about at the beginning of the training, how you get the job done and what you use to get the job done. We talked a lot and mostly about people leverage today. However, to remind you, we also need to look at your systems and your tools, because you can have great people leverage and talent. And if you don't have great systems and tools around that, it will fall apart. I mean, you're going to be wasting money. And you're going to be wasting talent because you're not going to empower them to do their job really well and be efficient by providing the best tools that you possibly can, which also translate to providing the best customer service to your clients. And some of you have heard me preach that before. So whatever tools you guys have, Obviously, if you're with us, you have, you know, you have your mobile app, your consumer app, you have your command platform and all of the things that come with that. If you're in another brokerage, I'm sure your brokerage has systems and tools. So find out what they are and adopt them, or go out and get your own systems and tools that fit your business. You just have to be careful with what systems these days that you're using in terms of third-party vendors and selling leads. And, you know, I can go on a soapbox about controlling your data and people intercepting that and taking your clients away from you. I would just say be careful and ask companies, if you're using third-party vendors, if they sell their data, or even your own brokerage, if they sell their data, if it gets put into their system. So just be aware of that, but you definitely need to use some systems and tools that work, because an Excel spreadsheet is probably not going to cut it once you get your business to a certain level. The ultimate goal in adding technology to your business is to set a higher standard of production for yourself and your staff. Okay, last section, the bottom line. So on page 49, when I'm going to give this to you for homework, which is the last exercise on page 49 before we get into the end, is assessing the strength of your people, asking about questions about your systems and tools, and making sure that you have what you need in place. And if not, what are you going to do to implement solutions for those tools? Okay, the bottom line. We talked about this last week. It's just a reminder, the 80-20 principle, the Pareto principle, which is 80% of our results are going to come from 20% of our actions. And when your goal is mastery and success, you can leverage your time to yield the highest productivity if you spend your time strategically focused on only a few key actions. So at the beginning, you guys did a list, and that list was, what are my highest dollar producing activities? And also, what do I enjoy doing? So check that next to your, what you would consider your 20%. If it's your dollar producing activity, it's most likely in your 20%. You want to focus on those as much as you possibly can. Steve says, be Akamai when looking at third-party solutions. Totally. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Be very careful about that. So let's go into your action plan, and then I'll have Todd kind of, after you guys do your action plan, I don't know how long you can stay on, but if you want Todd to answer any questions for you, he can, or you can reach out to him. I do want to make sure that you get the first part of this last exercise done, and then share a couple takeaways before we let you go. So on page 53, we could actually talk through it together. Why don't we do it that way, and then you can kind of complete it on your own. Let's talk through it together. This is where you're going to look at each challenge on page 53, 54, and 55. There's a lot of them on this one. And you're going to rate that challenge, and you're going to rate yourself, meaning 1 is I have no experience with this, 5 is I'm an expert at this. And then if you're a 3 or below in any of these challenge boxes, you want to put at least 1 action item that you're going to take to get better at that. So looking at this list of challenges, share with me, some of you, where you feel like you might be a 3 or below, and what is an action item you can take to get you to a 4 or a 5. So let's take a minute and look at the challenges, read through those, and give me your feedback on where is an opportunity for you to do better, and what are you going to do?
Number 6 is one of the things that I've been working on really hard for the last 6 months. You know, I communicate my expectations and standard to my allied. I think the problem I had is when I just had Daniel and Sarah for so long, you know, I hand taught them. It was literally like having a baby and hand teaching them. And they just, I think that's why they excelled so fast. And then as I started to grow and I was so busy with my own personal business, I was failing to give my team the coaching they needed, as well as, you know, keeping them to standards. So it was easy for me, like an example of Lindsay, you know, she was closing 2 deals a month, which was my expectation. So I didn't really stay on top of her as hard as I could have to make her better. And then as I brought on new people, it was the same thing. So what I really had to take a step back and look at is, why am I not training them the way they should have been? They deserve to be trained. The one thing I noticed I was super lacking at was scripting. If they're sitting in an open house or they're talking to a client on the phone, they were getting objections that I knew how to answer super easily, and so did Sarah, so did Daniel. But it's like I hadn't really practiced much with them. When it was just the three of us, we used to practice pretty much 4 days of the week. And now with our team, every single morning, we start our morning script practicing. Every single morning. That's how we start. And then we have a 3 o'clock touch, and we just all talk. And if your teammates aren't willing to do that, I'm just going to tell you, you have the wrong teammates.
Yeah, script practice. I love that. Yeah, you discovered that you could empower them and help them. So you changed the training up, objection handlers, script practice. That's huge. Jordan, Todd, Evie's asking, did your team members shadow you? And if so, for how long?
What I did with them is pretty much I would do, when we're calling buyers, I would have them listen to me, and then I would listen to them probably the first few days. And then after each call, I would sit and lovingly correct them, like, hey, if you would have went this route, I think you would have drew more information out of them. And then as for shadowing, I'm not going to lie, I sat so much open house in the first 10 years of my career, I never want to sit another day again. So I don't sit open house anymore. But when they start sitting open house, I will pop in and out throughout the day. And if they would like me to sit and sit there for 5 hours at a time and help them through it, I will do that. I think that's what they deserve for sure. And I think that's really about it for the shadowing. When I
not in client appointments or listing appointments or buyer consults.
So depending on the listing appointment, who it's through, I absolutely bring one team member the majority of the time if they don't have practice at it, because I know I travel so much that there are times that I have to have other team members do the listing presentations if it's an in-person one. So I would say every member but one member at the moment is very well versed on a listing presentation, and they can pretty much do it on their own at this point. And that's actually one of the things that we're going to start practicing again. The goal is right prior to the ban being lifted, we're going to script for 2 straight weeks on open house and listing presentations.
Great. So Jordan says, number 5, I regularly ask my allied resources how they may be able to help me. I have one lender and escrow officer I keep up with closely. I need to keep up with the rest of them better. Great. Josh is asking, Todd, how do you manage follow-up between you and your team members from lead to close? So software, discussion, and meetings, or both?
So this was something I really was bad at. And this was one reason I brought Daniel on to be the director of ops.
Yeah,
so right now we kind of track every lead that comes through. And honestly, even my top dogs, I wasn't questioning the girls as much as I should have been. And a couple months back, we decided we're going to question every single lead. And what I found is they wanted me to question them. They literally, I mean, there was some definite pushback from the get-go, like, hey, we know what we're doing. But when I explained why I was doing it, it was so much more seamless. They were like, now they literally tell me about their deals they're going through. And I track how many calls they make and how many times they reach them. And we use Brivity and Mojo. Brivity is our CRM system and Mojo is our phoning system. So I can literally tell how many times they get called. And every lead, when a new lead comes through, if they haven't reached out to them within the first day, I mean, we practice speed to close. I mean, I push so hard at them within the first 5 minutes. I want them calling, because if they're still on our site, it seems to be super, super impressive, the numbers that we get back. But if they haven't reached them within the first day or so, they are well aware I am going to come down on them and ask them, hey, what's going on with this deal? Why didn't you call? And one of 2 things they can answer. They can only say, I made the call outside of Brivity or Mojo. And then I will say, why haven't you updated your notes? So we're watching that very carefully. And every software is different. You just got to find the one that works for you. We've been using Brivity because we're eventually going to switch over to Command. I hope that helps.
Yeah, and I think, and I think there's more too, because Daniel, and he also has done such an exceptional job at helping to develop the tracking systems. I mean, the spreadsheet that I saw that you guys had for your tracking in terms of closing last year, like it helped coach him. It helped me coach him so much better because of seeing where your business was coming from. You guys have done such a great job at starting to really put that on paper, and then having your meetings and having your accountability sessions and it's a great example of your systems and tools that you're using and how that helps you do your job, right? As a rainmaker, to be able to help track and then hold them accountable and have them invested in it. And I know there's some challenges in getting them to use it. I know you had them, there was somebody that helped coach everybody on Brivity. And so I think the systems have been really good. And then you being able, that's helped you to determine what's most important in terms of the conversations you're having with them, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay. And then I think, so Evie, I see your question about him giving an example of the team's daily schedule. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the end of this. And then if you want to stay on and ask some questions, as long as Todd can stay on for a little bit longer, maybe he can answer some of those questions. So the first thing I want to mention and remind you guys of is next week, Todd is doing the Upshifting Your Lead Generation training. So next week, Wednesday, 1 to 3, which is going to be great. And then I just want to hear a few takeaways. I mean, before people have to go, because I kept you over a little bit, I'd like to hear kind of your top takeaways from today. So share with me and everybody else a couple of ahas that you've had today. And I'm going to stop sharing the screen so I can also keep the chat box live and open. So on your mic or on the chat box, what were your top takeaways from today, and what are you going to do? What are you going to implement? We covered a lot.
Hi, everybody. It's Joe.
Hi, Joe.
I just wanted to share that I think the biggest takeaway from today, by the way, thank you, everybody, for your feedback and this session. I love every session. And the biggest takeaway was defining what talent is and what talent isn't. Mm-hmm. And then also kind of digging deep within yourself as far as, because we're human and we're fluid, when you're showing up as talent, when you're not, and being self-aware enough to understand when you're not and what you're going to do about it. And then recognizing others around you and how to uplift them and how to uplift yourself. It was real cool.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe. That's great. What else did you guys get from today? Anne Marie is saying, thanks for all the insights, Todd. Looking forward to employing them when my business is ready to expand. Awesome. What else? Give me another one.
I got how closely involved throughout every given day Todd is with his team. Mm-hmm. And so just, I mean, it isn't a once a week check-in or, I mean, a couple of times a week, but it's, I mean, every morning, every afternoon. Recognizing that style and how he and his team operate and how frequently they communicate.
Yeah, that's a great one. He's very engaged and really part of that is they all work in the same space. So I think that's really helpful, meaning they have offices and they're working closely. So Todd is there and he's in the office and he is working the business. Sarah's in there working the business. Daniel's in there working the business. Obviously they go, Sarah will go out on showings and stuff. And then they have Lindsay and Connor, but those guys come in, right, Todd? I mean, to Evie's point about your daily schedule, those guys are in there working and they are in very close proximity, which I think helps. And at the same time, they have schedules in place. And it's tough when you're separated.
Yeah, we are absolutely office rats. I think I started learning that from you, Josh, which is really funny when we were at Hawaii Life together. I saw how much you guys interacted and, Rob tried that. And then I noticed when I had close proximity with my team, we accomplished much more. And granted, my business was amazing. My personal business was amazing last year. And I really think it was because we were all together and it was like, I was always working with them 24/7, but I was always, trying to show them by example at the same time. Yeah. So they pushed me as much as I was pushing them. And we do have a lot of fun. So I'm not saying we drink in the office every once in a while and have a champagne.
No, you're not saying that at all.
I'm not saying that. Sorry, Michelle. But I do treat everybody It's a family. We are 100% a family. We fight like families, cry like families. You know, they basically, I spend, you know, as weird as it is, I spend more time with them than I do with my wife because I'm in the office pretty much every single day by, Daniel would say 9. Closer to 8:30, but I'm usually always, me and Daniel are always the last to leave as well. So, you know, we're in there early, we talk story, and then the team starts to filter in. We do things together, and then pretty much me and Daniel recap on a nightly basis. Sometimes if I'm on the go, I'll give him a shout in the car and we'll talk as on the way home. But that's been a big change. You know, I have not done as good of a job originally with my team as I have the last 6 months. That's how I feel about that.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So any other ahas? I'm going to read the chat box, and then if anybody needs to sign off, go ahead and do that. And anybody else wants to just a couple more questions, we'll do that. So Daniel says, take away expecting and demanding leads from vendors. Yeah, I mean, that's great. Tim, we need to do a better job at tracking our leads. I think quite a few clients slip through the cracks. Interested in learning more on systems to track that. So great. Okay, so we'll do that. And Todd's a great resource for that too, of course. Melissa says, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Talent attracts talent for training. Thank you, Steve. Robert says, I need to do a much better job of following up and tracking leads. Yeah, that's a common one. I mean, Tim said that too, right? That is a common one, and that's where your systems are so critical. Your systems are number one when it comes to your tracking, and then the rainmaker, then the personal accountability or the director of operations and the tracking systems within the team that are kind of an overview of the detail of your tracking system. So awesome. Okay, what other questions for Todd? I know Evie had one about your daily schedule. Is she still on? Let me just check and see. Is she still, no, it's like oh yeah. She's still on. So do you want to answer that? And then if anybody else has any other questions for Todd?
So like I said, I try not to pick up my phone till around 6-ish. And then more than likely, one of the team members have already texted me by then. So I try to get a team member text taken care of first. Then we have and I'll tell you my schedule now, because I think now is the difference. So 9 o'clock, we script practice every single morning. That is not a mandatory. That's the one thing that's not mandatory. You don't have to come to that. That's a benefit. I mean, you can either come or don't come, but we work real hard at giving each other a hard time on the phone. And we talk about what things they heard on the phone the day before. And then we all kind of chime in. How would you have, well, I try not to chime in till the end and let the other team members figure it out. One thing I will tell everybody who's thinking about running a team or is having a team is do not give your agents the answers. I found I was giving them the answers so much that they were becoming lazy and they were not doing any research themselves anymore. So now it's very simple. They are not allowed to come to me with a problem until they have at least thought of a suggestion for an answer. And then, you know, and to be honest, they are getting amazing that way. Like they're coming up with different ideas I didn't even think of. You used to be like, I had the big answers. Now sometimes they come up, I'm like blown away, like, oh my God, I really changed their thought process. It's great. I mean, these guys are so intelligent and they're so driven. So then at 10 o'clock, so after practice, sorry, puppies are barking. After 10 o'clock, they start making calls. So everyone's supposed to call for a minimum of 3 hours. So that's getting through whatever daily leads they have to get through. And then we try to make sure everyone's been touched every 15 to 30 days who hasn't been touched or who's active or who's hot to buy in the next 90 days, just to talk story with them. Now we are, the mandatory thing is they must call past buyers, you know, past clients, and they have to check on them. And it is not a real estate conversation. It's 100% like Ninja. If anyone took Ninja, it's talking about them, what's going on, making sure they're okay, and just talking story. So we have a little more of the human element to them. Then well, we're not doing any showings, but usually we try to do our showings somewhere between 1 and 4. But now, since we have no showings, we meet at 3 o'clock, which is a mandatory meeting. You cannot miss. If you miss 2 meetings in a week, you don't get leads. And to date, we've only had one person miss, and they had a doctor's appointment, so they were allowed to.
So yeah, 1 to 4 showings or appointments in general could be listing
we do a lot
appointment,
of
could be a
virtual
buyer
appointments.
consult.
So
Yeah.
we're learning to get really good on Zoom appointments. We're teaching an old dog new tricks, so it's kind of fun. Then after the 3 o'clock meeting, right now, I'm trying to get everyone to stop working after 3 o'clock. This is not the easiest time for everyone, so trying to just do a little bit of work. Mostly it's, it's a check-in, and our 3 o'clock is just really kind of touch and base, having a good time. We're going to have happy hour today. That's what we're doing today, our meeting today, which I have an excuse to be over there at 3:30. We talked earlier. And we also we're doing shift together as a team. We're doing 2 chapters a week. So we actually will end it. Daniel figured out a schedule how we'll end it exactly on April 31st. So right when the band is supposed to be listed. So that's kind of our daily schedule. During not this time, it's somewhat close to the same. Everyone is supposed to be in the office at 9, getting everything ready for open house or getting ready for calls. Does that help?
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Great. What else? Do you guys have anything else for Todd? We should let him go. It's almost 3:20. But you can reach out to him. And
there's one more question I have time,
yeah.
But then I have to go after that. Anyone else?
Yeah. Okay. One more question. Okay.
Okay.
Todd, thank you so much for being on the call, and look forward to next week. Thank you to everybody for participating and hanging out with us. And we'll see you again next week, if not before. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. Yeah, you're awesome. Thank you.
You guys, see you later. Bye.
See ya.